Welcome back to the show, Reds. This is the Shankly Sessions, the Liverpool podcast we bring you each and every week on the upper tier. Thought I'd jump on and do a quick video here talking about obviously the game on Saturday night, which was fantastic, great result and all that kind of stuff. And especially with the results all around us, Arsenal drawn with Chelsea yesterday, and obviously Man City getting beaten by Brighton, which was phenomenal as well. But if we go back and we talk about it in context with other stuff, and I wanted to have a look back because this was the period that a lot of fans were saying, especially rivals getting gas up, saying this was the period where we're going to really find out what Liverpool is about. Now that period led to, I think, 7 wins. Was it 7 wins and 1 draw? Which was absolutely phenomenal. But if you look at the results and you look at the way results went, apart from the second half against Leverkusen, where we just absolutely blew them away, every other result has been kind of teams that have been given opportunities. Now, let's be honest, Chelsea, Leipzig, Arsenal, Brighton twice, Leverkusen and Aston Villa is a tough run. And on paper is a tough run. But in times in these games, even though they were 2-1 and 3-2 and all that kind of stuff and 1-0 and all, we were always reasonably comfortable in these games. And I think we have to talk about, since Slot has come in, what has happened and the improvement and the uplift in players and all this kind of stuff, and especially in the attitude and the mental side of things as well. We know how phenomenal these players are and what they can deliver, and we know that sprinkling in there of new kind of players and also older players with that experience to have won things and stuff like that is quite an interesting blend to have in there. Obviously, we've picked up injuries along the way. Alisson, Jota, Chiesa still to kind of show his back. Harvey with the fractured foot and stuff like that. So when we get all them back as well, we'll have some fantastic options and stuff like that for Slot. But at the moment, if you look at the job he's doing, he's very, very calculated in his movements and what he wants. And look at every single player on the pitch that we've seen so far. Every one of them have improved in one way or another. And the uplift has been huge. If you talk about probably the highest peak is probably Gravenberch in the 6 has been incredible. Klopp barely played him, didn't believe in him. If you look at Luis Diaz in terms of his final product and stuff like that, it's there. But the big thing that we're seeing at the moment really is the attitude within the squad and stuff like that, and that attitude to fight and take responsibility on the pitch, not only for yourself and your own position, but also for your teammates when they need you. And it was never more evident the other night when you see Luis Diaz running half the length of the pitch back to take a ball off an Aston Villa player in our box and help Robbo out. And that's really, really impressive when you see that going on. When you see players doing that and putting in that kind of work, you know that you've touched on something that could, flourish into something really, really special as the season goes on. I think it's been so impressive, and I spoke about it. I've spoke about how hard working we are both in and out of possession. I've spoke about how controlled we are in controlling the game, both in and out of possession. At no point do I feel anxious. You look at Quivine in there the other day, 2 absolute world-class saves. Answering any critic out there, if there was ever a critic out there asking who was the number 2 best keeper in the league, Quivine has answered that. And I think that goalkeeping situation with Mamardashvili coming in and Alisson maybe staying or going, we're not too sure, or whatever it is, and Quivine being there as well, we need to sort that out pretty quick, and Quivine shouldn't be going anywhere. He's absolutely phenomenal. But then you look at the run we've gone through here, and this is what we were going to be judged on. This run is what we were going to be judged on, but now the narrative has moved, and that's fine. We'll continue. We like being unbearable. And that's all good. But if you look now, what's coming up, and we'll get into the Villa game shortly. After the break we've got Southampton coming up. I think rivals will really judge us on the Real game at Anfield and the Man City game at Anfield. Then we have Newcastle away, Everton away, Girona away, Fulham at home and Southampton away in the quarter-final of the Cup. They're really good fixtures coming up. They're the fixtures you want to be involved in. You hear people talking about, oh, look at those fixtures, they're going to be really tough. When you're a team playing the way we're playing at the moment, where everyone's fighting for everyone. There's 100% commitment and work rate in there. Everyone knows their job on the pitch. Everyone knows how they're supposed to support their teammates around them and all that kind of stuff. These fixtures are the ones that we want to play. I'm sure that team would love to be playing Man City today. That team would probably love to be playing Real Madrid this week. We are now on an international break. So that does give us an opportunity to, recycle some of the stuff we've been doing. It gives Slot more time to look at the squad and do some coaching with some of the guys that are hanging around that maybe aren't involved in internationals. Mo is going to be around and stuff like that and all. But you've players out there now playing with a desire, playing with a smile, playing with a disappointment when they miss an opportunity. And it's really, really cool to see it. And even the stick that Darwin gets, and yes, he should be finishing more opportunities, but if you look at that goal he took the other night against Aston Villa and how important it was in the overall context of things, not just the goal and not just for him and not just a really good finish, and arguably he scored the hardest opportunity that he had. But if Leon Bailey gets sent off for the foul on Salah, you have Villa then sitting in a 10-man banked up for whatever amount of minutes, and this is where sometimes it has been our Achilles heel to unlock that. So not only did we score the goal, but we made sure that Villa stayed with 11 men on the pitch, which meant that the game still came and was still open and stuff like that. So let's not underplay that goal. A lot of people still focusing on the opportunities that Darwin's missed, and that's fine. You're not going to score every opportunity. But the one thing I'm saying about this team at the moment, and I mentioned it earlier, bar the second half against Leverkusen, which was just incredible, we haven't put those performances together fully over 90 minutes. Yes, we've had some really good halves, and yes, we've coughed up some opportunities. You look at the Brighton game, Brighton could have been 3-0 up at half time, but they weren't. And that's a confidence thing from us as well, that we're happy for other teams to have the ball, and when they're in our possession, we're still organised and controlled and ready to do what we need to do. And that's a really good sign as well. But I think there's a huge ceiling for this team as well. I think this team has barely gotten out of second gear. I was on Spider's show in the chat the other night and we talked about it towards the end of the Aston Villa game. This team hasn't hit near its straps this season, and that's scary to think. And I really do think that the only thing that can destabilise us now at the moment is, one, if we get more injuries, key injuries, but the second thing would be we need to sort out these contracts. We don't want to be going into January with all these things up in the air and all that kind of thing. We need to sort them out sooner rather than later. And I think that's really, really important, because I think the only thing that can make Liverpool come unstuck this season is internally in Liverpool itself. I don't think outside influences can destabilise at all. I think Slot is he's getting more and more relaxed in his surroundings. You can see it in his press conferences as well. He's opening up a little bit more, and we're seeing a little bit more of his character, because at times he can be just a little bit staunch and direct. I still don't understand why journalists keep on asking him about the contracts and the signings and all that, because what's he going to say? There are whispers going around at the moment that potentially Virgil and Mo could be close to re-signing for us, and I think that would be fabulous. I think it's a massive opportunity for both boys as well, especially Virgil being captain and Mo as well. I think Liverpool right now is in a really, really good place. I think most players are very, very happy. The Trent situation is probably a little bit more difficult. Maybe his head has turned, maybe he's decided. He's had a couple of contract offers, he's turned them down, so maybe his overriding decision is to go to Real Madrid, and if that's the case, that's something that we're going to have to fix, and we will fix it. But if you look to a man, the players that have stepped up, you look at Curtis Jones, looks phenomenal at the moment. Gravenberch, phenomenal at the moment. Diaz, phenomenal at the moment. Mo, we don't have to speak about, because Mo's always phenomenal. But you look at that defence, Konate, who just looks absolutely world class beside Virgil van Dijk. As a matter of fact, Konate this season has looked so good, he's made Virgil's job easy. I think the issues at right back, Obviously Bradley came in the other day, and the way players come in, Dominic coming in as well, it's kind of seamless. Now Dominic, a lot of conversations are going around about him, and maybe he needs to deliver a little bit more, and he does, but you can't argue with his work rate within the press and his work rate and his endeavour for the team. And I think he's playing in a slightly different role now, which doesn't lend itself to him arriving late to score those type of goals and stuff like that, but we definitely need to see more from him. But I think it will come. I think, as I said, with Conor Bradley and with Trent, whatever happens there, it's going to have to sort itself out. We might have to go into the market for a right back, and if we have to, we'll do it. I think Conor's excellent when he comes in. You seen him the other night against Villa, not an issue. Queeving in for Alisson, not an issue. The left back situation is something that may need to be addressed. Costas in recent weeks has looked really, really good. Robbo, I think, is still struggling a little bit. I think he might be feeling, I don't know, is he feeling the effects of all those seasons under Jurgen Klopp where he's put in some amount of mileage? I'm not too sure, I don't know. But he seems to be the one that hasn't uplifted as much as the others. And I don't want the conversation to go the way I've seen in the last week or two with Liverpool fans talking about, oh, Robbo's this, that and the other, blah, 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 blah. Teams don't win Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues. Squads win them. And Robbo is a very important player in this squad. The question going around, should Costas be number one or Robbo be number one? I answered that last week on Twitter with a number of guys being absolutely foolish. The number one player is the player that holds the position. He's the one that's shown it in training, and when he gets the opportunity, he's been given the opportunity in the team as well. And that's really what should happen. And we've seen a lot of that with Slot at the moment. And like, I was very, very surprised that Robbo started the other night. I thought Costas was the informed player, and I think if Slot is true to his form, the informed player is the player that holds the position, unless there's a tactical change or a different change in formation or what he wants against a certain opponent or something like that. But there's a lot to be excited about this Liverpool side at the moment. And it's been an unbelievable start that none of us could have forecasted at all. We always thought there might be a little bit of a drop off because Slot was coming in, and that obviously the players, the relationship they had with Jurgen, and transferring that over into Slot, who's a slightly different character but plays football in a similar way, and his methodology on football is very similar, but just little finer details that he goes in it that tweaks and makes the difference. But very, very similar in the approach. I think the difference with Slot and Klopp is, I think Klopp was like a father figure for these players as well as being a manager and stuff like that. I think with Slot, it's very much a coach-player relationship, and there's no in between there. I think he can be very, very ruthless if he wants to be in terms of who he picks and who he drops. And I think that's what we want from a manager. We don't want teams getting picked on the basis of relationship. We want teams getting picked on the basis of performance and how they perform in training and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's really, really exciting times for Liverpool. I think if you look at that Villa game, there's a lot of really, really good players on that Villa side. And at times, yes, Queeving came up with those two unbelievable saves. And that's what he's there for. That's his job. But it was absolutely phenomenal. But I think I haven't seen a game this season yet, bar the Forest game, and I'm not going to dwell on that because I think that Forest game actually could be the catalyst for what's going on at the moment. I think a lot of players would have come out of that Forest game looking at it going, nowhere near the standard, and I think they got stuck in, and I think that's what's creating what we're seeing now. But I think in terms of that Villa game, we've played so many good teams now, and we're happy to be the unbearables, but I don't think we should play down the opportunity that has presented itself to our club this season. You've got Man City really, really struggling. You've got Arsenal really, really struggling. Villa now are on a bit of a patch where they're struggling. Spurs are just being Spursy. And you're seeing a lot of other sides coming to the forefront now. Nuno with Forest, although he got a loss the other day, has been doing a phenomenal job. You see Newcastle at the moment bouncing back under Eddie Howe and finding a bit of form. Brighton under Fabian Hustler is doing an incredible job at Brighton. And now that he has Pedro back, he's going to be hugely influential for Brighton going forward. So there's a lot to like about this season, but this season just kind of feels like an indifferent season, doesn't it? It feels like that there's a bit of there's going to be a few little shocks and stuff like that. Don't be surprised if, out of nowhere some team makes the top 4 and they make the top 6 and all that kind of stuff. But we have a huge opportunity now being in the driving seat. And when we come back off this international break, hopefully everything goes well, no one gets injured and it's all good. We come back really, really strong. We've got Southampton. But this is exciting times for Liverpool. And it's interesting as well, because as exciting as it is, the fans are kind of damping it down. They don't want to get excited. But you should get excited. You should enjoy every bit of this at the moment. And like I said, I think we're only going to improve as the season goes on, touch wood. And I think this could be a very exciting season for this team. This team could deliver something really, really special in Slot's first year. He's already broke the record for the new manager in and the wins and all that kind of stuff. 9 and 11 in the Premier League, and I think it's 15 and 17 or something like that. 1 draw and 1 loss. Phenomenal start. Players energised. A lot of positivity. Let's get a couple of players re-signed up here now, and let's bring more positivity to this. Let's keep this stabilised. Let's push on now into the Christmas period and see where it takes us. Our expectations as Liverpool fans is always very high. We always want to be either winning things or in around the challenge and in and around it. That's our minimum expectation. The obligation on this side is to deliver. And Slot knows that more than anyone. He said it in his press conferences that these players, the experience they have of winning things, they know what the expectation is. They know that last season was such a poor drop off. But onwards and upwards, Reds. That's all I wanted to say on this. Hope you're happy. Top of the tables going into the international break. God, we hate these international breaks, don't we? They're just tough. But it might suit us, getting players back and giving players a rest and let them re-energise and let them prepare for what's ahead over the next 8 weeks. It's going to be pivotal. If you could, Red, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification button and drop a like on the video. It is the upper tier, but it's the Shankly sessions for the Liverpool podcast. And we'll talk to you again real soon. Cheers.